I was gone for 6 months. New Mexico wind farms, then a data center retrofit outside Phoenix, long days motel coffee TSA lines. I FaceTimed when I could, sent my mom dumb airport photos, mailed my sister a t-shirt from a tourist trap shaped like a giant pistachio. Nothing dramatic, just work. My flight home landed on a Thursday. I grabbed an Uber, tossed my duffel on the back seat, and texted the family group back in town. Dinner this weekend. No one answered. Not weird. My dad keeps his phone on vibrate and forgets it in the garage. My mom treats her texts like a to-do list she'll get to later. My sister Tessa replies to memes, not plans. I scrolled while the car cut across town. My Facebook pinged with a notification I hadn't seen in a while. You've been tagged in a photo. It was my mom's profile. Big banner letters, happy 55th Linda. The photo showed the whole family around a sheet cake. There were balloons, a gold 55, my dad at the head of the table, knife in hand. Tessa on his left, and on his right, my seat was a guy I had never seen before. He was my age, maybe a year or two younger. Clean shave, faded denim jacket. He had his arm around my mom's shoulders like they did this every Sunday. Under the photo, so grateful for my people. Couldn't ask for a better son. The blue tag sat on the stranger's chest. Rowan Ward. That's my name. I tapped the tag to make sure I wasn't losing it. It linked to my profile. It was like the internet had pinned my name to a person I didn't know. I checked the other pictures in the album. There he was again lighting candles. There he was again carrying a stack of plates. There he was leaning into my mother's cheek while she blew out the candles. The comments made my stomach drop. Rowan, you look great. So glad you could make it, son. That's our boy. I scrolled heart-thudding. There were posts from the last few months I'd missed because I don't live on Facebook. Barbecues, a trip to the county fair, a family selfie at our church picnic. He was in every single one, standing where I stand, smiling like he'd earned the seat. I typed in the group chat again. What's up with the guy in the birthday photo? 3 dots appeared under my mom's name. Then nothing. The dots went away. The driver took the last turn onto my parents' street. Same mailbox, same sagging basketball hoop from when I was a kid. The front window glowed the way it always did at dinner. I tipped the driver, grabbed my bag, and climbed the steps. Mom opened the door before I knocked. She yelled my name like she had been waiting at the peephole. She smelled like the laundry aisle at Target. My baby is home. She kissed my cheek and took my bag with an ease that made me feel 5 years old again. I tried to play it casual, nice party pics. She flinched just a hair, then recovered. Oh, that. Your aunt posted those so late. Come in, we've got pot roast. The house felt the same and weird at the same time. New frames dotted the hallway wall, our family gallery my mom curates like it's a museum. I always tease her that if the house burned down, she'd run back for the frames and forget her purse. The new frames were mixed in with the old. Beach shots, 4th of July, Easter brunch. And in each new one there, he was the denim jacket guy with the easy smile in the middle of us. Who is that? I stopped dead in the hallway, pointing at a photo. It was taken on our back patio. My dad had his arm around that guy's shoulder. They were both holding spatulas like dorks. Tessa was leaning into him, laughing at something off camera. It was a good picture of a life I didn't remember. Mom didn't look where I pointed. Dinner is getting cold. Mom. She kept walking right past the photo like it wasn't a live electrical wire. We'll talk at the table. We didn't talk at the table. My dad said, good to have you back, kid, and asked if the Suns would ever learn to rebound. Tessa told me she'd started a Pilates class and hated it. I waited for someone to bring up the guy. No one did. Finally, I said it. So, the man in all the photos, the one you tagged as me? Tessa took a sip of water and stared into her glass like there was a fish in it. My mom reached for the mashed potatoes. My dad cut into the roast so aggressively the knife squeaked. The silence went on a beat too long. Mom set the bowl down. That's Evan, she said, voice bright, like she was introducing a neighbor at a block party. He's been helping out. With what I asked. Oh, you know? She waved a hand. Around the house, with the grill. He's handy. Tessa's mouth twitched. He's funny, she added, like it was proof. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. So why is he tagged as me? My mom's eyes slid off mine. Your aunt doesn't know how Facebook works. Tessa's the one that posted the album, I said. I'd seen her username in the metadata. I didn't say that part out loud. I didn't have to. Tessa put down her glass. It auto-completed. Okay, relax. Auto-completed? Right. A stranger's face auto-completed to my name on my mother's birthday. Sure. After dinner, I wandered into the living room on the pretense of hooking up the TV to the Wi-Fi again. I wanted to look. The frames tugged at me like magnets. There was one from Thanksgiving. We do the turkey in the fryer, a ritual my dad pretends is dangerous to make it exciting. In the picture, apparently Evan was holding the thermometer, and my dad was pretending to yell about the oil. I remembered this Thanksgiving as a freeze-dried series of phone calls from a motel lobby. Seeing the picture felt like staring into a life that kept breathing without me. My mom came in with a load of laundry. She watched me scan the frames. She didn't stop me when I reached up and straightened one that was crooked. That's my job. It has always been my job. Where did you meet him? I asked. Tessa, she said too quickly. Tessa. Tessa called from the kitchen, at the gym. Evan works at the gym, Mom said, nodding like she'd rehearsed that line. He needed a few odd jobs. You know how your father's back has been. It was thin. I could see daylight through it. But I let it go for the night. The flight caught up with me. My old room looked the same, except the stack of boxes in the corner was higher, like the house had been storing memories while I was gone. I sank onto the bed. My phone lit up. A DM from my aunt under the birthday photo. So happy you could be there, sweetheart. Your mom was glowing. I lay on my back and stared at the ceiling fan. The house carried noises the way old houses do. The pipes sighing, the fridge cycling. Somewhere a laugh drifted up from a video my mom liked on her phone. I fell asleep feeling like I'd landed in a parallel version of my life where I'd missed one exit and never found my way back. The next morning, I woke early and made coffee. I was halfway through a mug when the front door opened without a knock. A male voice said, "Morning," like it was his house. He stepped into the kitchen and stopped when he saw me. The face from the frames? He was more real in person, which sounds dumb because of course he was real. He had a tiny scar on his chin I hadn't noticed in the photos. His hair was flattened from a winter beanie he shoved into his jacket pocket. "You must be Rowan," he said, sticking out his hand. I looked at it. I shook it because I'm not a psychopath. "And you're Evan." He smiled like we were teammates. "Heard a lot about you, man." Likewise, I said, because I didn't know what else to say. My mom breezed in behind him with a bag of bagels. "Evan, you're early. That's good." The faucet in the laundry room is still dripping. She kissed the air near his cheek, then near mine. "Rowan, can you grab the cream cheese?" It was a choreography I didn't know the steps to. Evan washed his hands at the sink like he'd done it 100 times. He went straight to the drawer where we keep the towels. He knew where the towels were. He knew where the wrench was. He knew the rhythm of my mother's morning. He whistled under his breath as he walked down the hall toward the laundry room. I stood there with the cream cheese in my hand and felt a stupid urge to laugh. The sound that came out wasn't a laugh. It was a small, shocked noise I couldn't swallow in time. My mom busied herself with the bagels, her back to me. "He's been such a help," she said. "Your father doesn't need to climb ladders anymore." "I could do that," I said. It came out defensive. I hated how it sounded. "You're on the road," she replied as if that settled everything. "You're living your life." I wanted to say, "This is my life." I wanted to say, "Why did you call him your son on Facebook?" I wanted to say, "Why is my name on his face?" Instead, I spread cream cheese on a sesame bagel and asked what time church started on Sunday. The kitchen clock ticked. My mom told me 10. She put Evan's bagel on a plate without asking how he liked it. On Sunday, I put on a clean shirt and drove us to church. My dad took his preferred seat at the end of the pew. My mom sat next to him. Tessa next. I slid in on the aisle. We were one short then. Evan slipped into the space between Tessa and my mom like a puzzle piece and said, "Sorry, Mrs. Ward traffic," even though we'd all come in the same car. After the service, Pastor Jim shook my hand and said he was glad to see me home, then clapped Evan on the shoulder and said, "Good to see you, Rowan." He laughed like it was a joke. Evan laughed back. My parents laughed too. My stomach bottomed out. I told myself it was a one-off. People make mistakes. Names get crossed. We took a photo on the steps like we always do when my mom is in a mood to capture moments. I stood where I always stand, right side 2 steps down from my dad. Evan stepped right into my spot casual, and I had to slide over so I didn't bump him. My mom counted 1, 2, 3, and on 3 she said, "My boys," with this warm, satisfied voice I didn't recognize. That afternoon, the photo went up. Same routine balloons and the caption, a Bible verse about family, a string of heart emojis from church friends. The tag on Evan's chest was mine again. The tag on my face was blank. I sat at the kitchen table and tried to breathe through it. Maybe I told myself, this is what happens when you're gone. People fill in the blanks. Maybe it's not personal. Maybe it's just survival. But then I noticed something I'd missed the first dozen times I stared at the wall of frames. My baby picture me in the high chair with spaghetti in my hair was gone. In its place, a studio shot of the 4 of them at Christmas, matching sweaters, a plaid backdrop, Evan's hand resting lightly on my mother's shoulder like he'd always had the right. I took out my phone, I clicked my mom's profile, I opened the family album. There were captions beneath a few shots I hadn't read. Our son helping dad with the fryer. Proud of my boy. He makes me laugh every day. Not a son. Our son. My name attached like a price tag someone forgot to remove. I went out to the garage for air. The smell of fertilizer and paint grounded me. My dad was at his workbench sorting screws into little jars because that's how he thinks when he doesn't want to talk. "Who is he to you?" I asked. My dad didn't look up. "He's a good kid," he said. "He shows up." I waited for more. That was the whole sentence. He shows up. When I came back inside, my mom was on the couch flipping through photos on her phone with Evan beside her. They were laughing at something Tessa had said. It was domestic, harmless, sweet. The kind of moment that used to mean safety to me. I sat across from them and said, "We need to fix the tags." My mom waved her phone like the problem was the air between us. "It's just pictures." "It's my name," I said. Evan shifted, finally looking uncomfortable. "I can talk to your mom about not tagging me. I don't care about that stuff." "It's not about you," I said sharper than I meant to. He nodded, hands up like I'd caught him in a crosswalk. My mom's smile thinned. "You've been home 2 days and you're picking fights." "I'm asking for my name not to be put on a stranger," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "Evan is not a stranger," she said. "He's family." She said it plainly, like we were discussing what to have for dinner. Something in me went quiet. It was the kind of quiet you get when you realize a storm isn't blowing over. It has settled in. It has a name. It's not leaving. That night, I lay awake and replayed every moment that had led here. The missed calls, the auto-completed tag, the seat on the church steps, the missing spaghetti picture. I opened notes and typed 3 words. "Keep your receipts." It's something my boss says when we file reports. Write everything down because later you won't remember the small stuff, and the small stuff is what proves the big stuff. Monday morning, Tessa texted the group family dinner Friday. "I'll make lasagna." A heart emoji, a winky face. A second later, a new text, "Ace, bring garlic bread." Ace is my nickname. My grandpa gave it to me when I hit a Little League line drive that dented his truck, and he said he couldn't even be mad at his ace. It's not a name that auto-completes. I typed, "Who is Ace?" Then I deleted it. Then I put my phone face down and stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. Friday came anyway. I got to the house early and set the table because that's what I do. Forks on the left, knives on the right, napkins under the forks. My mom likes the water glasses in a triangle like a little choir. I poured the water. It felt good to do something that had rules. The front door opened. Voices. Laughter. Tessa came in with a casserole dish, cheeks pink from the cold. My dad followed carrying a paper bag. Evan walked in last holding 3 loaves of garlic bread. "Your request, chef," he said to Tessa, winking. He set the bread on the counter and reached into the cabinet over the stove for the serving platter without asking where it was. My mom tousled his hair. My dad asked him how the gym was going. Tessa told him to preheat the oven to 375, and he spun the dial like he'd been doing it for years. We sat. My dad poured wine. Tessa served squares of lasagna the size of bricks. My mom looked around the table like a director seeing her scene hit the mark. When everyone had a plate, she lifted her glass. "To family," she said. Evan lifted his too. "To family," he echoed. I raised mine because not raising it would have been war. The glasses clinked. The sound was small and bright and ordinary. It hurt more than anything else so far. Then my dad turned to Evan and said the sentence that made the room tilt just a few degrees, just enough to make you reach for the table to steady yourself. "So, Ace," he said like he'd been saying it forever. "How's that certification going?" Friday dinner stuck with me like a bad taste. My dad calling Evan Ace wasn't a slip. It was muscle memory like he'd been practicing. And the way no one blinked when he said it, like the whole table had agreed on new lines in a script I hadn't been given. The next morning, I drove back to my apartment. 6 months gone and dust had colonized everything. I should have been comforted by my own mess. Instead, the silence pressed down like insulation. No voices, no clatter of dishes, no background laugh track of family life, just me and the hum of the fridge. I unpacked, laundry, emails, trying to convince myself I was imagining it. Maybe I was jet-lagged. Maybe Evan was just a friend who happened to fit too neatly. But then Sunday night, my phone buzzed with another tag. It was Tessa again, game night with the crew. The photo showed the 4 of them hunched around our dining table, Monopoly board, wine glasses, the usual mess. Evan sat where I used to sit, thumb up, grinning. My name floated over his head. I zoomed in, searching for something, anything. The bowl of red dice, the corner of my dad's half-done crossword, my mom's reading glasses folded next to her glass of Pinot. It looked like home, my home, except my seat was full. I didn't comment, didn't like it, just turned the screen dark. By midweek, I drove back to check on them. Call it paranoia, but something kept chewing at me. I walked into the house after knocking once. No one answered, so I let myself in. The TV was on volume low. ESPN highlights. My dad's recliner leaned back, but it wasn't my dad in it. Evan's shoes off, socks gray at the toes, remote in hand like it belonged there. "Hey, man," he said casual as a cousin. "Where's Dad?" "Hardware store. Said he'd be back in a bit." He didn't move. Didn't get up, just sipped his soda. On the side table sat a coaster I made in 7th grade shop class, my initials burned into the wood. His can was sweating on it. I stood there, hands in my pockets, trying not to show how wrong it felt. "You're here a lot." He shrugged. They liked the company. Later that night, Mom cooked chili. The kitchen smelled like cumin and onions, the way it always did in fall. I offered to chop cilantro. She waved me off. "Evan's got it," she said. He was already at the counter knife, moving like he belonged in the choreography. She handed him the ladle, told him how her mother used to stir chili, and he nodded like he'd heard the story before. I waited for her to tell it to me. She didn't. At dinner, I tried steering conversation. "Remember when Dad dropped the whole pot on the porch in '05? We ate turkey sandwiches instead." Tessa laughed politely but glanced at Evan first. He smirked and said, "Yeah, your mom told me." Classic. It was like I'd quoted a movie everyone else had already seen. The next blow came from something tiny. After dinner, Mom pulled up the family calendar. The paper one she still tapes to the fridge, even though we all have phones. Birthdays, doctor appointments, vacations. She marked Evan's name on 2 weekends in December, Evan Christmas shopping with Mom. I asked, "You're not coming with me this year?" She looked at me like I'd misunderstood. "You're always working. Besides, he knows what I like." The room tilted. She didn't mean it cruelly, but it landed like a stone. Driving home, I replayed every detail. The coaster, the chili, the calendar. They weren't accidents, they were replacements. Small bricks stacked until a wall stood between me and them. That night, I dug out an old shoebox from my closet photos ticket stubs, scraps of the life I'd lived in that house. I flipped through Polaroids from Little League, a flyer from my first band gig, a photo booth strip of me and Tessa pulling faces at the county fair. Proof that I'd been there, that I'd mattered. I laid them out on the floor like a crime scene. Because that's what it felt like, evidence. And I realized if I didn't start keeping records, I'd disappear one photo at a time. So I opened my notes app again and typed, November 14th, Evan and Dad's recliner. Coaster, my initials. Chili night, Mom told him Grandma's story. Calendar, Christmas shopping. I stared at the list until the words blurred. Then I locked my phone and whispered into the empty apartment, like a vow. Noted. Every damn thing, noted. I thought maybe writing things down would help me feel sane. It didn't. It just made the list longer. By the 3rd week back home, I had notes on my phone that read like the diary of someone losing his mind. Every entry started with Evan and ended with something that used to be mine. Then one Tuesday, I caught them slipping. I stopped by unannounced early afternoon. My dad's truck was in the driveway. Through the kitchen window, I saw 2 heads bent close, my mom and Evan. She was showing him something in a manila folder, papers spread out like a school project. I pushed the door open. "Hey." The folder snapped shut. My mom plastered on a smile. "Rowan didn't know you were coming by." "What's in the folder?" I asked, too direct. "Recipes," she said. Her voice carried that brittle cheer she used when the dog chewed a couch cushion. "I'm teaching him Grandma's bread rolls." Funny. Grandma never wrote recipes down. She measured with her hands. I could still hear her say, "A fist of flour, baby. That's enough." Evan cleared his throat. "Your mom's been teaching me a lot. She's got stories. Stories that used to belong to me." That night, I scrolled back years on my mom's Facebook. Birthdays, Thanksgivings, vacations. I wasn't in half of them anymore. Photos had been swapped out, albums rearranged, like someone was curating a museum where I'd never existed. At 2 in the morning, I DM'd my cousin Kelly. She's blunt, never sugarcoats. "Do you see what's happening on Mom's page?" I typed. She replied in seconds. "Yeah, I thought it was weird. I asked your mom once, she said you don't like pictures." I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. I don't like pictures. The same kid who used to line up his baseball cards just to photograph them? The same guy who carries a shoebox of scraps like holy relics. The breaking point came a week later. I was upstairs in my old room looking for a charger. Voices floated up from the living room. My mom low and warm. "You've been such a blessing, Evan, like the son I always prayed for." A chair creaked. My dad's voice joined, rougher but steady. "He's reliable. Shows up. That's what matters." My chest went tight. Reliable? Shows up? The same words he'd given me in the garage, stripped of me and pinned on someone else. I pressed closer to the vent. Then Tessa's voice, sharp as a match strike. "He's better for them, Ro. You don't see it. You're always gone. You make everything about you when you come back." For a second, I thought she knew I was listening. Then I realized she was just saying what she believed. The silence after stung worse than the words. A family nodding in agreement that maybe I was the problem. The next day, I opened my notes and wrote, "Folder on table, not recipes. Photos scrubbed, you don't like pictures. Heard them say like the son I always prayed for. Tessa, he's better for them." I added a line under it all, not paranoia, proof. I started testing them. Small things. At dinner, I brought up Grandma's bread rolls, asked Mom to tell the story. She smiled, handed the cue straight to Evan. He recited it like a script. Flour on the counter, a fistful in the palm. My story in his mouth. At church, I told Pastor Jim about the Thanksgiving fryer incident, Dad dropping the turkey the oil slick across the porch. He laughed, said Evan told him that one last month. Even my nickname wasn't safe. At the grocery store, I heard my mom across the aisle call out, Ace grabbed the cereal and two heads turned, mine and his. Only one of us moved. Late one night, I found the folder. Tessa left it on the coffee table when she went to bed. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, copies of our family photos, not originals. Printed on thick paper marked with sticky notes. Notes in my mom's handwriting, replace Rowan E. Crop Rowan out. There was more. Insurance forms. Emergency contacts. My parents had listed Evan's number instead of mine. I sat there, pulse hammering in my ears, staring at the proof that my life had been reassigned like a clerical error. And for the first time, the fear in my chest shifted into something sharper. Not despair, not confusion, something closer to resolve. If they wanted a replacement, they'd have to face the real thing first. Once you see the folder, you can't unsee it. Every sticky note, every cropped photo, proof that my family wasn't sleepwalking into this, they were driving the bus. I told myself not to overreact, not yet. So I went quiet. I showed up, smiled, ate the chili, played along. Meanwhile, I started building my own case. The first thing I did was buy a recorder. Not some spy gadget, just a $20 app upgrade on my phone. Slip it in my pocket, hit record before dinner. Background chatter, forks, clinking laughter, all of it. The second thing, I started saving screenshots. Every Facebook tag, every caption that swapped my name onto Evan's face. Hard drive cloud printed copies in a shoebox under my bed. If they wanted to rewrite history, I'd keep the original. And the third, I baited them. One night I asked Mom, remember my graduation speech? She blinked. Evan jumped in. The one about second chances, right? He smiled like he'd lived it. Another time I told Pastor Jim loud enough for Evan to hear I was the one who set up the fundraiser for the youth group. Evan laughed, clapped me on the back, and said, yeah, that was a team effort. My pastor nodded at him like it was true. I'd leave questions hanging, watch who answered. More often than not, it was Evan. My stories were his now, and every time I wrote it down. But collecting wasn't enough. I needed to know how far it went. So I went digging. In the filing cabinet in the basement, under old tax returns and warranty slips, I found a folder labeled Estate Planning. Inside were draft documents from a law office I recognized. My parents had named an alternate executor, not me, him. His name, not mine, on paper. That was the night I stopped hoping this was some big misunderstanding. I didn't confront them. Not yet. You don't walk into a gunfight with one bullet. You wait until you've got a full clip. So I kept showing up. Thanksgiving rolled around. Mom assigned dishes like always. Tessa got sweet potatoes. Dad got the turkey fryer. Evan got pies. Me, I didn't get an assignment. When I asked, Mom smiled like she hadn't noticed. You've got enough on your plate, but I brought something anyway. Not food gear. A small GoPro hidden in a book spine. Set on the shelf across from the dining table. Blink once to record. Dinner started normal. Turkey, football, noise. Halfway through, my mom raised a glass. To family, she said. She looked right at Evan when she said it. I sipped water and watched the red light on the shelf blink. Evan told a story about when he and Dad fixed the deck last summer. My deck story. I was the one who sanded those planks till my hands blistered. I almost laughed out loud hearing him spin it like a campfire tale. I didn't laugh, I just watched silent, letting the tape roll. That night when everyone was asleep, I retrieved the camera and uploaded the file. Clear as day, Mom calling him son, Dad nodding, Evan telling my stories in my voice. I played it 3 times, then labeled the file Exhibit A. The quiet war had started, and I wasn't going to lose it by being loud too soon. By December, I had more evidence than I knew what to do with. Screenshots, recordings, copies of estate drafts. My phone was a vault. My shoebox was bursting. I had proof enough to ruin Thanksgiving dinner 3 times over. But evidence without an audience is just paper, and I needed witnesses. The idea came to me at work. I was on a site checking wiring diagrams when my foreman said, always sign off in front of the inspector. Paper means nothing if no one sees it happen. That stuck. Proof isn't proof until it's public. So I started planning for Christmas. My family treats Christmas like the Super Bowl. Matching pajamas, cookie trays, the whole thing. Every cousin, every neighbor, half the church seems to drop by at some point. Perfect stage. I didn't tell anyone. Not Kelly, not my buddies, not even the coworker who noticed I'd been carrying a flash drive around like a lucky charm. Instead, I prepared. I booked a consult with a lawyer, slid the estate drafts across his desk. He whistled low and said, if that signature goes through, you're out of the picture, son. I upgraded my cloud storage and labeled folders like case files, Exhibit ABC. Easy to pull up in seconds. I tested my projector twice, made sure it connected straight to my laptop. My plan wasn't subtle, it was nuclear. In the meantime, I kept up appearances, played along with family rituals, smiled at the right times, even laughed at Evan's recycled stories, though my hands clenched under the table. Tessa thought I was thawing. See, she told me one night, it's not so bad. He makes them happy. I bit my tongue till I tasted blood. A week before Christmas, I ran into Evan outside the hardware store, cold air breath fogging. He looked surprised, then grinned like we were old friends. You're around more lately, he said. Got time off, I answered. He shifted his bag to the other hand. Good. Family needs people who show up. The words landed sharp familiar. He'd heard them from my dad. Now he was feeding them back to me. I leaned in. Careful, Evan. Sometimes the one who shows up is the one who gets seen the clearest. His grin flickered. Just a second, enough. That night, I opened a new document on my laptop, titled December 25th. I wrote an outline like I was prepping for court. Open with photos, show before after edits. Play Thanksgiving video, mom calls him son. Present estate draft with his name. Read transcript of their vent conversation like the son I always prayed for. End with my own words, one line, no yelling, just the truth. I practiced in the mirror. Short sentences, no drama in my voice, let the evidence do the damage. On Christmas Eve, I slipped the flash drive into my pocket and zipped the projector case shut. My pulse hammered, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was momentum. This wasn't about getting them to love me again. That ship had sailed. This was about making sure the world saw exactly what they'd done. Christmas morning smelled like cinnamon rolls and pine. My mom had the matching pajamas laid out red and green flannel. Evan wore his like he'd grown up in them. Dad fiddled with the coffee pot Tessa filmed on her phone. I went along, smiled in the group photo, sat cross-legged on the carpet while wrapping paper flew. Laughed when Evan opened a gift labeled "To Our Son" and held up a new drill. My name wasn't on a single tag. It hurt. Of course it hurt, but hurt wasn't the point anymore. I was here for the reveal. By evening, the house was packed. Cousins, neighbors, Pastor Jim, a dozen people from church. Voices echoed, wine glasses clinked, kids tore through the hallway in sugar-high chaos. The perfect audience. I waited until dessert. Pies on the counter, people settling in the living room, Evan telling some story about his first fishing trip with Dad. I stood up. My hands didn't shake. Got something to share, I said. Eyes turned. Conversations dipped. I carried my laptop to the TV, plugged in the projector. The screen flickered. Evan chuckled nervously. What's this movie night? Something like that, I said. Exhibit A photos. Side by side? Originals with me in them? Edited versions with me cropped out? Evan smiling in my place. Gasps rippled through the room. Exhibit B video from Thanksgiving. My mom raising her glass looking at Evan. To family, couldn't ask for a better son, crystal clear. The silence afterward was heavier than any shout. Exhibit C estate draft. Evan's name typed where mine should have been. Highlighted projected 10 feet wide on the wall. And finally the audio file. My mom's voice through the vent, soft and certain. You've been such a blessing, Evan. Like the son I always prayed for. Tessa's voice too. He's better for them, Ro. No one moved. My mom's hands fluttered like she wanted to turn off the projector but couldn't find the switch. My dad's jaw clenched. Evan sat frozen face pale under the glow of the screen. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just said the line I'd practiced. If you wanted a replacement, fine. But stop tagging him with my name. Stop erasing me. You don't get to rewrite who I am. For a long moment, nothing. Then Kelly, my cousin, stood. This is sick, she said. Her voice shook with anger. You tried to replace your own son. Other voices followed. Murmurs turning sharp. A neighbor muttered, I thought something was off. Pastor Jim looked at my parents like he'd never seen them before. My mom whispered, we just wanted stability. Dad said nothing. Evan cleared his throat, but no words came. He stood up, left his pie untouched, and walked out the front door. I unplugged the projector, tucked the drive back in my pocket. Merry Christmas, I said to the room. And then I walked out too. The cold air hit like a reset. Stars sharp in the sky, breath fogging. My phone buzzed with messages, Kelly already asking if I was okay if I needed a place to stay. I texted back, I'm fine. Better than I've been in months. Later in my own apartment, I opened the shoebox. The Polaroids, the ticket stubs, the old photo strip with Tessa. Proof that I had lived, that I mattered. I slid the flash drive in with them, closed the lid, and set it high on the shelf. Not as evidence anymore, as record, as memory. Because no matter what story they tried to tell, I'd kept mine. And that was enough. Thank you for listening to today's story. I hope this story has brought you some relaxation and emotions. If there is anything incomplete in the process of telling, please give us your comments gently so that we can improve. We always listen, and we just want to say we love you very much. If you find the story interesting and meaningful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to support us.